My absolute favorite thing about the Haunted Mansion is that it's a horror ride, but not one that is intended to shock people. The intention isn't to scare you, it's a celebration of horror. The whole duration of the ride is just one big party indulging in the lunacy of mortality. It leans much more heavily on the fantastical rather than shock, giving a sense of magic to the afterlife and a sense of joy crossing over into the great unknown. You're presented with this horror exterior, this old mansion. You walk into a foreign elevator that drops you down as the walls begin to morph and change. You don't know what you're walking into, what you're stepping into, but you're locked in this mansion and you feel like there's no way out. Fear starts to build up, anxiety starts to boil. But as we see through the cobwebs, through the dust and the dirt and the grime, there's light in these ghosts. First, slowly, like a waltz, before expanding into an all-out party amongst a community of the undead. In 2003's Haunted Mansion, starring Eddie Murphy, well, it's none of these fucking things. Doug's Thoughts! Doug's Thoughts! Doug's Thoughts! My biggest issue with the Haunted Mansion is how unceremoniously it presents the world.
This must be termites.
This is the goddamn Haunted Mansion, one of the most celebrated rides since the fucking 70s. It holds up. Every beat of the ride is still as magical and as powerful as it was 50 years ago. But for some reason, Rob Minkoff and team didn't want any of that magic. They didn't want any fun.
Now in this film, I mean, there's a lot of comedic aspects and you still want to scare the kids. How do you balance that?
Making sure that every time it gets really, really, really scary, that you can lighten the mood with a joke.
And in an effort to make a movie that's as generally accepted as possible, they created something no one could enjoy.
You been?
No, never been there.
Promise me you'll go.
You promise.
Yeah, I promise I'll go if you sign. I will go to Hawaii if you sign, but I gotta get going now because it's my anniversary tonight. I'm trying to get home to my
Your
wife.
anniversary?
Yes, it's my anniversary.
Happy anniversary!
Thank you. Sign the thing here.
Happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy, 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 happy.
Hey, sign this!
Okay, Jim.
June 28th, 2003, we saw the release of Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. With a $140 million budget, it grossed over $654 million. Now that sounds like a success story if I've ever heard one. Oh, hi, Raimi. Then just 5 months later, on November 26th, was the release of Haunted Mansion. In the same year, Disney took a gamble on not one, but two adaptations of theme park rides. Haunted Mansion had a little more modest budget of $90 million, only showing a gross of about $182 million. One vastly more successful than the other, and one thematically, visually, conceptually, on every fabric of his being, is exponentially more successful than the other one. Why is that the case? Why is Curse of the Black Pearl a solid fucking bona fide classic blockbuster motion picture when the Haunted Mansion is just a wet fart in Disney's filmography?
Hey, look, come on, look, Daddy's having more hallucinations. Let's go right now, let's go.
They're ghosts, Dad.
They're not ghosts. We're just having hallucinations from that dinner that we ate. It was that chicken. It didn't taste right.
Hey!
Who?
It's not the chicken!
All right, it's not the chicken. It's not the chicken, but we're still getting out of here.
Pirates of the Caribbean feels like a love story, an ode and commitment to pirates. We are gonna represent Disney's pirate world. When you go on the ride, Pirates of the Caribbean, you are transported to a past world. You're treated with battles and celebration and fire. The movie was dedicated to pulling you in that experience. Haunted Mansion proceeds at every single turn to undercut itself, take away any notion of anxiety, of tone, of theme in order for Eddie Murphy to make some sort of joke.
Then you must look within.
I don't want to look within, I want to look without. Are you deaf?
There is great evil in this house. A devil's curse. It seeks to destroy you.
Why would something seek to destroy me? Look, I'm just here to sell the house, okay?
And that's what the whole movie turns into. Just one big flat joke where no one laughs. The movie opens up and we're treated to some truly awful CGI. There's titles. From the start, it just puts a bitter mood in your mouth. We start to see hints of a party. I enjoyed this part. I enjoy costumes. The interruption of the CGI credits is a little abrupt. It's a little aggressive, but we're setting a mood. That's fine. Once the credits are over, we're then introduced to Eddie Murphy. And Eddie Murphy is a realtor. He is selling homes. That's our protagonist to this grand venture through ghosts and macabre. We have a realtor.
Oh, I think it's perfect. It's just what we've been looking for.
There aren't enough plugs.
Hey, wait a minute, Mr. Coleman now. That place that I showed you over on Sycamore Street, that place was absolutely positively loaded with plugs.
That's right. There were plenty.
Yeah, but the steps were too high. When we get older, we could trip.
Every house we look at, you find something to pick at.
I just...
Sure, you could say there's contrast between the horror and then the mundanity of life, and he's kind of a scumbag. And why does he go to the mansion? Because some paperboy drops a stack of flyers with his and his wife's face on it. The ghost of the haunted mansion thinks, hey, that looks like the lady that I wanted to fuck hundreds of years ago. I wanted to fuck this lady, and that looks like her on that flyer. So I'm gonna pretend like my house is up for sale. So Eddie Murphy and his family will come to the house and I can take my lady and we can be ghost lovers forever. Eddie Murphy is particularly insufferable. He just does not fit the tone of what this movie needs at all. Disney, they're playing it as cookie cutter safe as possibly can. It's too expensive to be a Disney Channel original movie, but there's no substance beyond a made for TV movie here. Dad needs to learn to not be a jerk and appreciate his family more. They're trying to go on a vacation, but he has to make a stop by the mansion because realtor business. So the whole family just happens to be there. Disney's commitment to this formula. We have the husband and a family, and the family's at odds. Usually they would probably focus on the kids, but since the kids are fucking nobody, who gives a shit? It's Eddie Murphy. We have to focus on him. And Eddie Murphy, you might be surprised, not the first choice for the film.
Wove a story of that's both comic and romantic and scary, and I think he really captured all of that in the original draft. And then you add Eddie Murphy to it, and you know, of course, some things changed along the way.
When Eddie Murphy was brought on, the script was changed. It was more comedic. He had to have a reaction to every fucking thing that ever happens in the fucking movie.
I'm sorry to bother you.
It should have been a theme park ride where a family or a person gets trapped in, called to this mansion. We follow them and we just spiral through the night. Imagine 90 minutes where it takes place in essentially real time. Don't breathe. But for kids. For some reason, these kids want to break into the mansion. For whatever reason, our protagonists, they're young, they're naive, they don't understand history, so they take it for granted. They break into the haunted mansion. They find a butler there and then a headmaster there. And they're like, whoa, sorry, we didn't mean to break in. But they're like, no, come in, have a dinner. Please stay, there's a storm outside, it's flooding. They're reluctant, but they're like, okay, fine, we'll stay, we'll see where this goes. Maybe we could con this old man. And then they start to see things go a little weird. Things feel a little tense, they don't know why. The headmaster is sort of grooming them for some nefarious purpose that they're not really sure of. Maybe they're supposed to open a portal between the human and the ghost world. Once you do your setup, your characters are really well defined. We know their goals, we know what they want. then you can just go crazy in the back half. No real exposition, no lore, no overarching story, and it's just like a thrill ride, which I think is something the Pirates of the Caribbean does so goddamn well. You get the Curse of the Black Pearl up front, and then you just follow the characters as things just snowball into one another. It's the best way to represent the feeling of being on the ride. Haunted Mansion takes its fucking time to a frustrating degree. Eddie Murphy, our protagonist, doesn't talk to Miss Leota until about the 40-minute mark. Credit to the set designers, credit to makeup, art department, everyone. The mansion looks beautiful. I love how they really brought this place to life and conceptualized every room. Unfortunately, it is shot in the most flat, bland fucking way possible. Every single shot of Eddie Murphy is just a flat, straight-on shot. And then we move on. It deflates everything that the music, that the house, that the entire story needs. The director's main body of work coming from Stuart Little. He did The Lion King. The music and the art direction does most of the work for The Lion King. Also, that's 10 years before Haunted Mansion, and he hasn't done shit since. And the writer have literally just written Elf, which Jon Favreau and Will Ferrell make that movie what it is. We have a team that's relatively green in terms of movie making and big filmmaking. They don't really have any accomplishments under their belt, except for Lion King. I'll give them that. Back to my version. Once our two protagonists, they realize something's up. They start sneaking around the mansion. It's their curiosity that pushes them forward. We stay with them as they're discovering this mansion because we need to see it through their eyes. And the only exposition I want to give, the only expository scene that should happen in the film is from Miss Leota. They stumble upon this crystal ball. It's in this big room and it's alone on a table in the center of the room. Character who's curious and is the reason they're kind of in this situation. Goes up, gives it a little push. Nothing happens. Maybe you add a little Aladdin imagery in it and they rub it off a little, clean off the dust, and that activates her. The crystal ball fucking connects into place, into her stand like it's a magnetic field. This pushes the main character back, and all we see is the glowing on the main character as their eyes are fixated and they're pressed against the wall and they cannot move. We just hear the voice of Leota coming out, very foreboding, very purposeful. We stay on that main character. We hear the famous words from the ride. And maybe we just get a little glimpse behind. But when that's over, when that conversation's over, the ball drops, goes back into a blank state, and then our main character falls, not knowing what they just experienced, not knowing that they just activated a turn of events that would bring the rise of the dead. Now, the ball can give little directions, little subliminal directions. Maybe Miss Leota has a little agenda. Maybe she has a thing or two she's trying to orchestrate. We don't really know what side she's on, and we don't really know what side the butler and the headmaster's on. Weird things are going on, and these players are intact. They have this need to explore specific areas. So instead of just the ball saying, "Go get the key."
For the curse to be lifted, the truth must be known. And for the truth to be known, you must find the key.
And Eddie Murphy going, "Well, we gotta find a chest. You told me we just gotta find a key. Now we gotta find a chest."
All I had to do was find this key. I got the key, and now you're telling me the story about a trunk. The key is the answer to all, remember?
Every Disney film tackles a world that is relatively unknown to children, or a new world that children may have not been exposed to. So you gotta ease them in. You gotta find the magic in it, and you gotta inspire that magic in the audience themselves. So now our main characters have a drive. Now they have an intrigue. Unlike Eddie Murphy, who just stumbles throughout the house going, "Oh, there's something weird going on," until he runs into his children, and then his children say, "Hey, we found the next plot point. It's these ghosts." The ghosts should come gradually. They should have meaning behind them. It shouldn't just be just plop up on the screen, just "You like Wallace, Shawn? We got him." there should be a faint sound of song. Maybe the organ's going and our main character finds a walkway and they're looking over the banister and they're seeing the ballroom. And it's empty, nothing but cobwebs. You can barely see the organ. Walks down the stairs, gets closer, finds the organ is playing itself. He tries interacting with it, and when he interacts with the ghost, when he presses the same key that one the ghost is pressing down, now the ectoplasm comes alive. Now he can see a ghostly hand within his. He backs off. He sees the whole room has now lit up with spirits, and they're dancing and celebrating, and the music becomes louder and more aggressive. This big shock and awe moment of beauty, but it's still scary and foreign and kind of weird. So our main character, he gets caught up in the dance, and the spirits can interact with him a little bit and bring him into the dance. And it could be this kind of creepy display where now he's face to face confronted with these spirits who are excited. They have not seen flesh. They have not seen a human in hundreds of years. And now there's one here dancing with them. It's this very disturbing and disorienting scene with the main character dancing around with all these ghostly faces staring back at him. The biggest fuck up that this movie does, not playing the songs from the ride. 2, not giving the ghosts any attention whatsoever. When we make it to the graveyard, it's Eddie Murphy and his kids on a stagecoach, or just reacting to ghosts like, oh, I don't want to watch people on the ride watching the ride. I want to be on the ride with them. The camera does a couple of movements, but it's mainly just pans, like here's a ghost, oh look, another ghost. Oh, look, another ghost. The song is the most important part of the ride. It's the heart of the ride. This dead celebration. The camera needs to come in and just sweep through them and not just recreate scenes and images from the ride, but create our own scenarios, create our own little tiny stories amongst the ghosts. You can have hints and nods to the ghosts from the ride, but you gotta create something new within the world. You gotta find the tone that represents the ride and transform it into the world in film. The song builds up and the main characters, they are pushed and forced back, trying to escape the ghost, trying to escape these tight little hallways, these tight little corridors. They break out, they can breathe in that Louisiana air, they can look up into the sky and see stars. The music has changed. Now it's no longer this uptight-bitty waltz ballroom song. Now it's a party song. Now it's a people song, a chant that's building up. And they're curious, so they go a little further, but they're hesitant. So maybe they grab a shovel. Maybe they grab some sort of protection, some sort of weapon. Little hints of ghosts. Maybe we see them just off to the side of the screen, but the main characters don't see them. Milk it. My favorite movies aren't an image that I remember seeing. It's the emotion that comes with that image. The Circle of Life isn't powerful because of Simba. It's powerful because of the music and the cinematography and the lighting and the colors and the staging and the scale. All the elements working together. Haunted Mansion has zero emotion in it, zero heart. It is the flattest fucking movie I've ever seen.
Hey! Sarah! Sarah, come on, please! Sarah! Sarah, I love you! Sarah, please, I love you so much.
We need to have horns blaring and music pumping through every vein, every headstone. There's a scene in Haunted Mansion where Eddie Murphy's being chased out of Madame Leota's room by musical instruments, but the musical instruments are separate from the soundtrack. There's a score going on beneath it, and the musical instruments are playing like their own score. So it's this weird mismatch of sounds that don't work together, and Eddie Murphy's trying to run away, and he's going, ooh, drums, whatever. That needs to be grander, and that needs to feel like a musical number. It needs to feel like the scene in the cave from Aladdin, where you just have horns blaring from every direction, and Aladdin's just being tugged along, and he's just a witness to this magic, to this party, like we are. And we need to feel like it is a party. It needs to be alive. And nothing in this movie is alive. The most egregious part of creativity squandered by the film is with the quartet. Eddie Murphy and his kids come across 4 statues, 4 busts, singing. Eddie Murphy goes to them to look for the mausoleum. I need to get to the mausoleum. Tell me how to get there. And instead of marveling at the magic, at the beauty of not only song, but concrete bus singing, Eddie Murphy acts annoyed.
Sorry to bother you, I was wondering if you wanted to know where the mausoleum was.
Down by the old mill stream where I first met.
No, I think they said it was an old oak. That's what they said. It's by
by the light of the silvery moon, of the silvery
guys,
moon.
look, you sound really good. Your harmony's tight, but we're trying to find my wife. Right? I gotta help my wife.
I think that's wrong. I think making a film like this with cynicism, with pessimism, fundamentally undercuts the purpose and the feeling that the ride gives you. You're undercutting your audience and you're really telling them that they're kind of stupid for wanting to enjoy the magic. I would let them finish their song. I would let them sing their fucking hearts out. Maybe we could get a little exposition. Maybe we could get a little information about who owns the mansion, how long the mansion's been there. And the main characters, because they're not assholes, sit there and listen. When was the last time they met with talking statues? Because music is the one thing that can carry us over. It's the one thing that connects us to death and life and makes the death feel alive. This was the first movie I can remember as a child being fucking annoyed with it. I was 10 years old when this came out. At that age, you just accept that movies are movies because they're fucking magical. It's a thing happening on screen. It has to be good. But this, I felt disappointment. I felt saddened because the trailers, all the previews that Disney put out beforehand was showing off these creatures, showing off this special effects and the design put behind the ghosts. When you actually see the film, that's like, what, 20% of the movie, and it's kind of shit upon by the filmmakers themselves. I guess I'm just upset that these guys got to do it at all, because this is a goddamn dream project. What has a stronger mood? What has a stronger sense of atmosphere than the Haunted Mansion ride at Disneyland? You just see the outside of the building, and you know that there's something incredible inside of it. You can really tell that Eddie Murphy had some sort of agreement, like, I'm gonna do this movie as long as you don't fuck up my suit. My suit has to stay nice and clean. I'm not jumping in water. I'm not getting cobwebs on it. I'm not getting dirty. I'll do the movie, but you can't make me look dirty whatsoever. Eddie Murphy has to be clean by the end of the film, and he has to get his wife. He's an asshole to his wife. He doesn't appreciate his wife, but when his wife is being courted by some dead guy...
Yeah, I got a few objections.
The next time I say we're going to the lake, we're going to the lake.
Oh God, I better get my wife. So he has to get the key, and then a corpse comes to life. Eddie seems to be working at about 50% capacity because there's no sense of fear or dread coming from him. The children actors either, they're very calm for what is happening, and you don't feel any sense of tension or anxiety for them. They're not in danger because this is a fun, safe, goofy world. Eddie Murphy goes, whoa man, you better go back to sleep. We didn't mean to wake you. You better go back to sleep.
Hey man, go on back to bed. Get back into bed. Go back to bed. Hey, I'm Jim Evers from Evers Real Estate. What's your name?
There's nothing wrong with living in the fear and playing in the fear. Poltergeist, Goonies, like these children's properties, let the children feel fear. Let them feel scared. Because then when you hit the message...
Hey, keep it calm. Hey, Michael, listen. It's okay to get scared. Everybody gets scared every now and then, son. But you just can't let it stop you.
When you use the message that it's okay to be afraid, as long as you pull yourself out of it, as long as you overcome that fear, then it means so much more. Have two characters, have them be teenagers, have them seem more grown up than they really are, and have them pretending to take on this courageous, curious persona when really they're scared, frightful individuals, and then they actually grow up by facing those fears. It's like a fucking story arc that matters, not a realtor that realizes, oh, we should have gone to the lake in the first place.
The next time I say we're going to the lake, we're going to the lake.
Let's go.
It's so insulting and meaningless. Just as long as you have the theme about appreciating something with history, as long as you understand something that's old, and maybe you can go dark, put in like a slavery metaphor and classism, because you have the ghosts inside the mansion and the ghosts outside the mansion. It's like it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, your memory is as strong regardless. And the guy who was rich pushed away everyone that would remember him. Therefore, he's this bitter, ugly ghost because he doesn't have anyone to love him. Coco, I guess, imbued some of the ideas brought into Coco in this. And then we all come away with like a greater understanding and appreciation for the things that scare us. Older things that contain memories, personal possessions, architecture, uniqueness. Each ghost brings a piece of themselves into the dead, a piece of uniqueness. The hitchhiking ghost, the Hatbots ghost, they all have something. And that's a fun way to pique children's curiosities of like, what would I be like as a ghost? What would I bring to the dead? 2003's Haunted Mansion is the single most disappointing and frustrating watches I have ever sat through. It's a movie with endless possibilities. I'm not saying I could do better. I'm just saying that there are ways to give the ride the emotion and the celebration that I believe it deserves and I believe is within all of us to create. Thank you for listening to my little bitty rant on the Haunted Mansion. I'm sure there's more shit I could pick apart, but these are just kind of the broad themes that really fucking annoy me. I just sat down and gave my thoughts because I'm Greysontodd. These are my thoughts on Haunted Mansion. Stay posy out there, everybody. Watch some good shit. Thank you. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Toodles.